Hello and welcome back to another Marvel Rivals Hero Guide. In today's video, we're going to be covering the very angry artificial intelligence, Ultron. We'll be covering his abilities, tips and tricks, and how to best use him in your matches. But before we continue, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you enjoy the video or if you learn something new. And you can always use these timestamps here on screen to navigate the guide or to come back to certain sections if you need a refresher or if you just need to rewatch something. Starting off his abilities, we have his primary fire, Encephalo-Ray. When you fire, each bullet has two parts. A single constant beam and then a single burst beam. The single constant beam does 72 damage if you keep it on an enemy during its full duration, then the ending burst beam does 75 damage. So each round that you fire does 147 damage per shot, and you have 6 rounds in each magazine before you have to reload. As with every ability, there are a few important things to note. For starters, between each shot there is a pretty lengthy reset time. So just keep that in mind that even though you deal decent damage per shot, it comes out a bit slower since you have to wait in between each shot you fire. Finally, you can damage enemies from an infinite range, but damage falloff starts at 20 meters and goes to 30 meters, where you'll be dealing 75% of your maximum damage at that range and any distance past it. His next ability, his E ability, is Imperative Patch. When pressed, Ultron will summon a giant drone to follow around and heal the targeted ally and any allies nearby. You can summon your drone on any ally within 25 meters and within line of sight. Once you do, the drone will follow around the targeted ally, healing them for 45 health per second, and healing any nearby allies within 8 meters for 30 health per second. Finally, it's important to note that the drone will despawn if you move 30 meters away or further, or if you lose line of sight of it. Both will result in the drone despawning after 5 seconds. His next ability, his right click, is Imperative Firewall. When pressed, Ultron will grant bonus temporary health to himself and any allies near him or his drone. Ultron will give himself 75 bonus health and all allies within 8 meters of him or his drone 55 bonus health. After 3 seconds, the health will begin to deteriorate at a rate of 40 health per second. So basically a little under 2 seconds for your bonus health to go away after those initial 3 seconds. Finally, the cooldown time is 10 seconds. His final regular ability is called Dynamic Flight. When pressed, Ultron will dash 12 meters in any direction, gain 50 bonus health, and move faster for 8 seconds. You can dash 12 meters in any direction based on which way you're looking and what direction you're moving in with your stick or with your WASD. And then after that, you'll move 40% faster for 8 seconds and gain 50 bonus health. Finally, we have his ultimate, Rage of Ultron. When pressed, Ultron will summon 5 drones around him to unleash several barrages that both deal damage to enemies and heal allies. In addition to that, Ultron himself will gain 50 health per second until the duration of his ultimate is over. As always, there are a few important things to note. For starters, the drones fire 5 barrages of 5 projectiles each. So in total, a single barrage or volley will do 200 damage and heal 625 health if you hit them with every projectile from the barrage. And you get 5 of these in total before the ultimate is over. So in total, if you hit enemies and allies with every single shot from your ultimate, you'll deal 1000 damage and heal 3125 health. You also get the 50 health per second while the ultimate is active. Its duration is 9 seconds, so that's 450 health in total for the full ultimate. Finally, while your ultimate is active, you are unstoppable and cannot be CC'd. Now that we know what each of his abilities do, how can we best use them in our matches and help our team the most? Let's start with his primary fire, since that's his only real damaging ability outside of his ultimate. His primary fire is pretty simple. The main thing you need to focus on is keeping your beam on target the entire duration and when the big burst beam hits. This is going to maximize your damage and make sure you're dealing the full 147 damage per shot that you can deal. If your tracking is a little bit off, or if something gets in your way and your beam is only on them for a bit of the first beam, it's going to really cut into your damage. Remember, that first constant beam portion of your primary fire does 72 damage, but only if you keep it on for the full duration. So if your tracking is off, or like I said, if something gets in the way, it's going to start cutting into your damage quite a bit. Outside of that, to keep your damage up, you'll want to stay within 20 meters for full damage. Now, 30 meters and further, your damage is only reduced to 75% of max, which sucks, but I think you should still go for those longer range shots. Yeah, you deal less damage, but since you're further away, you're less likely to be targeted, and if you are, you'll be harder to hit. Which is good, because Ultron only has 250 health, and he's a flying character, so they don't have much health, and are exposed a lot of the time. You know, there really isn't a lot of natural cover just up there in the sky, right? For this reason, and because he's a support, using his heals and when to use them are quite important. Let's start with Imperative Patch, since his other abilities work in tandem with it. Imperative Patch is your main healing ability and is what you're going to be focusing on a lot of the time when it comes to healing. You should throw it on the ally with the lowest health, since it always heals the person it's on more than the nearby allies. The main target gets 45 health per second, and the surrounding allies get 30 per second. So, don't be afraid to move the drone around to the lowest health ally to get them back into fighting shape faster than, the allies nearby them. And, since you heal nearby allies around the targeted ally, you want to try to keep your drone on the person surrounded by the most friendly faces, so you're not just healing them, but also healing all those teammates around them. Most of the time, this is going to be your tank, since they're on the front line, and most of your teammates are going to be either playing directly behind them, or at least near them. Basically, as a rule of thumb, try to throw your drone on the ally with the lowest health that's near the most people. That's to do the most healing on the most people you can. But if you have another main healer or someone capable of healing most of the team, you can send your drone out to heal those harder to heal targets. For example, say you have a cloak and dagger or an invisible woman and they're focused on healing the main portion of your team. You can throw your drone out and heal the flanking DPS or the harder to hit friendly characters like Spider-Man or Iron Man. The targets that your other healer would have to completely turn around or face away from the main portion of the team to heal. Like the side healing targets that you can handle while the cloak and dagger or the invisible woman are busy healing the main portion of your team. On top of this healing, you have your other ability, Imperative Firewall. This is great to give your team some temporary health and to maybe save them from a big attack or a lot of damage coming your way. I use my firewall when either I see an ultimate or another big form of damage coming, so I can preemptively buffer my and my team's health, and that temporary health I give them can soak up a good chunk of damage before harming their actual health. The other time is when I'm trying to really save a teammate. Like, say our tank died and one of our DPS is running away. We're trying to regroup, recuperate after losing a team fight, whatever. I'll put my drone on them, but the healing from that drone alone might not be enough to keep them alive, depending on how many enemies are focusing on them and how many people are chasing them down. So, I'll use my firewall and give them that extra 55 health, which will hopefully soak up enough damage and buy enough time for that teammate to either get away to safety, our team to respawn and group up, or enough time for me to heal them back to an amount they can get away from, or for our healer to come over and save them too. There's a lot, basically it can buy you a lot of time. It can really help save a lot of lives with that extra shielding that it gives. His final regular ability, Dynamic Flight, his movement ability. It has that 12-meter dash and the buff movement speed afterwards, makes it great for either running away from a team fight you lost or getting back to the objective or team fight after you died and respawned. It also comes with that 50 health during the ability, which also helps in those escape scenarios, since you're not only just running away faster because of the movement speed buff, but also you get a nice little bit of health too, which is going to make it harder for the enemies to finish you off. Especially if you pair the healing from Dynamic Flight, that 50 temporary health, with your firewall and the temporary health from that, it really gives you the extra health to help guarantee your escape or push if you're dashing towards the enemy team. It's pretty versatile. You can use it for offense, you can use it for defense. Most of the time, I will say I use this as an escape tool to really get away and stuff. But, like I said, do keep in mind, you do get that movement speed and that 12-meter dash, so if you died and you're trying to really get back to your team to help save them, do not be afraid to pop this to really, get back to your team and start healing your teammates as soon as you can. Finally, we have his ultimate, which is capable of doing a decent amount of damage and a whole ton of heals. His ultimate definitely has killing power, but since the bursts come out in intervals, it gives the enemy healers time to heal and prepare for your next volley. For that reason, I wouldn't use this as a straight up damage tool, but since it does deal decent damage, I don't think it's bad for cleanup. Maybe if your team gets the other team below half, or you can follow up another teammate's ultimate with your own, not only just to heal up your team, but also clean up the other enemies that are already on life supports. It also gets you ready if they decide to counter ult. You know, if one of your DPS ults, you probably can expect the counter ult coming. So after, you know, your teammate finishes their ult, you go ahead and pop yours. And then if there is a counter ult coming, you already countered it. And if there isn't one coming, then you're cleaning up. Now, that being said, this ability is still mainly a support ultimate. It deals a total of 1,000 damage, yes, but it heals 3,125. So, if you see the chance to use your ultimate purely to heal, do it. If you see your team is low and about to die and lose the point, about to wipe, you know, one of those world-ending, life-shattering scenarios, pop your ultimate, heal up your team, and try to get some damage on the enemies while you're at it. Since his ultimate does do so much healing, it can really get your team out of a bad situation, and in some cases, you can counter an enemy ultimate with your own to keep your team alive through it. Just always remember that through your ultimate, you have access to a ton of healing in a relatively short amount of time. Moving on, we have the final portion of this guide, the combos and counters. Starting off with the combos and his team up ability. His team up ability is Nano Ray. When pressed, you'll fire a straight continuous beam for 8 seconds. That not only damages enemies, but heals allies. It basically gives you a new beam that can act as a third healing ability or another form of damage, depending on when you use it and what you use it for. It deals 70 damage per second with the same damage fall off as his primary fire. That is, starting at 20 meters and going down to 75% damage at 30 meters and further. On top of that, it heals 85 health per second and has a 30-second cooldown time. As you could probably tell by the numbers, this is a pretty good ability. You can use the 70 damage per second to melt enemies and the 85 health per second to really heal up your team if you're in an emergency. Most of Ultron's healing is constant. It stays at the same rate. The drone is going to heal 45 health per second on the targeted ally and 30 health per second on nearby allies constantly. It's not going to heal any more. It's not going to heal any less. So if the enemy team really decides to pile on the damage, it's going to be hard for Ultron to keep up. So this gives him another option to heal and another option to deal damage as well. If you're being overwhelmed, you can just pop this and reinforce the healing from your drone. It's a great ability, but make sure you're using it at the right time, because it does have that lengthy 30-second cooldown time, and 30 seconds is a long time in a game like Marvel Rivals. So make sure you're using it sparingly, you're using it when you really need to, because you don't want it to be on cooldown when, you know, a situation comes up when you do really need it. Now for the combos. I think Ultron works really well as an offhand support, having constant healing but not any burst healing outside of his ultimate or team up. For that reason, I really like teaming him up with healers that do have that burst healing he's lacking. You know, supports like Cloak and Dagger that have those bigger chunk heals. I also want to note that he combos pretty well with Mantis. I think their healing is a bit lacking together, but Mantis can damage boost the Ultron, which makes his primary fire like 2-tap squishy targets, which can really come in handy on certain maps and going against certain team comps. We saw it a lot in the recent Marvel Rivals tournament, and it's a pretty good strategy, so I thought I would mention it here. He of course also combos well with Iron Man because of their team up, but I also find he combos well with characters that either group up enemies or can stun them, so he can easily land his primary fire or unleash a volley from his ultimates. Characters like Groot and Doctor Strange are good examples because they can really set up Ultron to run his game plan and run it well. Moving on, we got the counters. Who counters Ultron? Ultron is relatively squishy, only having 250 health, and he's, you know, a flying character. This makes hit scan or high damage single target characters really counter him. Characters like the Punisher can shoot him down from the sky pretty quickly, and being so weak, characters like Hawkeye can either one-shot him or put him on death's door with a single shot or two. Then you have characters like the Hulk or Spider-Man who can knock him out of the air, you know, making him an easy target for the rest of the team, or, you know, Spider-Man just being able to stay on him, and even with the extra mobility Ultron does have through dynamic flight, you know, his dash ability, characters like that can really stay on a single person, he really struggles to get away from, and his damage output isn't that great, and it comes out in such bursts because of the way his primary fire works. He can really struggle to get away from these scenarios where people are hardcore targeting him, especially highly mobile DPS or tanks. And I think that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed the video or learned something new, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more amazing Marvel Rivals content like gameplay, guides, and news. Also, don't forget to leave a comment down below letting me know who you want me to cover next and what type of content you guys want to see. And, of course, don't forget to check out the description below for a link to my Discord server where you can group up with other people playing Rivals and stay up to date with my uploads and other games we're playing and just all that good stuff. We have a chill community, so, go ahead and go down there and join. I'm Zululix, and I will see you in the next video.